Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Yankees embarrassingly get swept in 4 games by the Toronto Blue Jays. They are out of first place for the first time since mid-April. They are 10-16 in division games. It is about as bad as it can be right now for the Yankees. And to make matters worse, Clarke Schmidt leaves the final game of the series with right forearm tightness. That doesn't sound good. Really hoping this isn't going to be some sort of Tommy John situation, because he's been really good, and he's been dealing with this for the last few weeks as well. That's the thing, is it's not, and there's reasons why, because I think I mentioned in previous episodes that that he'd been getting pushed back and things like that, and so I mean, there's injury concerns now as well. I mean, you started out the series with Fernando Cruz, who really had been one of their best relievers. He was placed in the 15th DL with a high-grade left oblique strain. So it sounds like Fernando Cruz is going to be out for a while. And so that led to them bringing Jeff Hartlieb onto the roster, and he appeared in this series. And then he got designated for assignment. And before this last game, they brought up Clayton Beeter, who made his MLB debut this season. We saw him earlier on last year. But I don't know where to begin. I mean, the defense, absolutely horrendous. The bullpen sucks. The bullpen is in such a bad place right now. And it just finding ways to lose all the time, and losing basically in close fashion. I mean, really, arguably, all 4 of these games were essentially close. Now, the final score of game 2 was 12-5, but this was a game that was tied 4-4 going to the bottom of the 7th. Game 3, they were actually down 8-0. Will Warren imploded. Gave up 7 runs in the first inning. They were down 8-0. Came back to tie it up on an Aaron Judge homer to make it 9-9, only to lose 11-9. And then also, George Springer absolutely destroyed the Yankees. And George Springer is one of those top public enemies for the Yankees, when consider George Springer was one of the main pieces on those Houston Astros teams. And George Springer, it's not as if he's been anything great at all in recent years. Since he's been in Toronto, he is no longer, I mean, he's gotten worse and worse and worse, but now he's had a bit of a resurgence, and what an unbelievable series. I believe it ended up with 4 homers and 11 RBIs in the series, a couple of homers off of Luke Weaver. Really, really bad. Heading into a Subway series with a Met team that they're in a bit of shambles as well, though they're coming in on a 2-game winning streak, but their rotation is completely fucked right now, to the point where their starters, let me see if it's changed. It's TBD Friday, Frankie Montas Saturday, and TBD Sunday. But we'll talk about that at the end of this series. So let's start from the top in game 1, which is a game the Yankees had a lead and relinquished it in the 6th. And the combination of poor defense and bad bullpen. Within this series, I mean, Trent Grisham leaves the game with what was hamstring tightness. Also on the injury front, and luckily Grisham was back and looked pretty good actually in game 4. Austin Wells, he had circulation issues in one of his fingers that led to him as well being sidelined for, I believe, he didn't start the first 3 games. He came in off the bench in game 3 and started game 4. So I think he's all right, but again, injuries are starting to pile up a bit, more so on the pitching side. But as far as game 1 was concerned, as far as the lineup goes, Austin Wells was not in the lineup, as well as Paul Goldschmidt. Paul Goldschmidt was out for games 1 and 4 of this series. And let's see. And Jason Dominguez did not start game 1. But Dominguez actually really had a pretty good series, from the offensive side. And really, this was not so much a series where offense was a problem, although runners in scoring position certainly was, especially the first two games of the series. Game two was horrific. And we'll get to game two and give the specific number. I think it might have been about 2 for 17 or something with runners in scoring. And game one was 1 for 7. But let's discuss it. And this was coming off of what maybe, and I didn't believe it, but they won 2 of 3 against the Athletics. Maybe they're turning a corner. Again, never bought it. Carlos Rodon pitched all right. And it was another situation where Rodon was in line to get his 10th win. And, the team pretty much failed him. Now, he wasn't overly efficient. He goes 5+ innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. He started the 6th inning, I believe, off double. Now, in hindsight, I kind of wish they left him in. Mark Leiter Jr. came in and has really had a very rough go at it. He's been overused. That's part of it too. And then for the Blue Jays, Max Scherzer turning back the clock. He looked good. I mean, 5 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, two runs, no walks, and 7 strikeouts. And he really, he ends up making like about 1 mistake that costs him. So this was a scoreless game through 3 innings. And the Yankees get on the board in the 4th with a 2-run homer by Jazz Chisholm Jr. 14th homer of the year. Like, he's really been hitting a lot of home runs, especially coming off of the series prior. So that gives the Yankees a 2-0 lead, and kind of a similar formula to what we've seen recently. And with this being a 4-game series, certainly might be some things missed, but going to try to hit on as much as I can. Trent Grisham leaves the game in the 5th, where the inning before, coming in on a ball, he short hopped it. He wasn't able to get there, and he pulled his hamstring. But clearly it wasn't a bad pull, because usually when you talk about hamstring, that's an injured-less stint. But luckily it wasn't. Luckily he would reappear back in game 3. So he missed game 2, started for the first time in game 4. But the Blue Jays score a run in the 5th, and this is where the defensive problems rear its ugly head to start. Jazz Chisholm Jr. should not be playing third base. He should be playing second base. It's a bit ridiculous at this point. It's a single by Ernie Clement that goes off of his glove. I'm not saying it was an easy play, but it goes off of his glove. Then, after a ground out to get Clement over to second, it's a Carlos Rodon wild pitch. And look, JC Escara, he had his struggles behind the plate, more so in the form of catcher's interference, which ends up happening later in this game, and the game after. And then Vladimir Guerrero, with the infield back, gets an RBI single to make it 2-1. That felt like a very cheap run that was just given to Toronto. Then in the 6th inning, the Yankees get that run right back off of lefty reliever Brendan Little. It ends up being a spot where Giancarlo Stanton is up with 2 on and 2 out, and he gets an RBI single. I just want to say this as well. Aaron Judge was intentionally walked a lot. John Steiner, the Blue Jays manager, that was in the game plan. We saw Ron Washington do it with the Angels, but for the Blue Jays, that is a thing. And it honestly worked out most of the time. It seemed very risky. I mean, and it's not as if the Yankees didn't score at all off of those occasions, but it kind of worked out. But Stanton gets a big hit right there to make it 3-1. Stanton, showing some signs of life in this series offensively. And then at the bottom of the 6th, it's that leadoff double by Davis Schneider off of Rodon, which then leads to Mark Leiter Jr. coming on. And so with a runner on second, this is where Miles Straw hits a ball into the hole. Volpe tries to get the runner out at third and throws it away, leading Miles Straw to going to second. He was the batter. So Anthony Volpe makes a couple of critical mistakes this inning. He needs to hold on to the ball there. I mean, Anthony Volpe is at the top, is towards the top of my list for guys that is just fucking extremely frustrating, offensively and defensively. And this franchise is going to continue to roll him out there, and they're going to continue to defend the fuck out of him. But it's just unacceptable what he's been doing in year 3. So Volpe should have just eaten the ball. Don't throw it. Let it be. But he tries to get the out at third, and he had no chance of getting out Davis Schneider. So now it becomes second and third, no out. And then Nathan Lucas, he was a thorn on the Yankee side this series as well. Nathan Lucas is a pinch hitter, gets an RBI single to make it 3-2. Then Leiter Jr. gets Wagner to strike out, keeps it 3-2 first and third, one out. Then a wild pitch gets Lucas over to second. Second and third, one out. Ernie Clement puts together a solid at bat. And what ends up happening is it's an infield single. And Anthony Volpe tries to throw Clement at it first. And what happens? You knew the run was scoring. And Ernie Clement's very fast. Again, another situation where Volpe's trying to do way too much. And Lucas ends up going from second to third. So now it's tie game. First and third, one out. They bring on Jonathan Loaizaga. And with George Springer up, JC Escarra is called for catcher's interference. You just can't have it. With Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on deck, you just cannot do that. So now it's bases loaded and one out. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr. scalds the ball for a 2-run single that goes basically through Jazz Chisholm Jr. Now, look, the ball was crushed. But again, a seasoned third baseman maybe makes that play. If they make it, it's probably a double play. So that makes it 5-3 Blue Jays. Let's then go to the top of the eighth. So Fluharty, the lefty, comes in for the Blue Jays, and Cody Bellinger has been really very, very good against lefties this year. He hits a home run, his 12th of the year, to cut it to 5-4. Then they intentionally walked Judge, which to me was wild. Although as the series progressed, it became less wild. But like in that situation, like they walked him as the tying run. Obviously, you don't want to give a home run to Judge, and of course that's a risk. But it was crazy to me they just intentionally walked him. Then Jazz Chisholm Jr. goes for a sac bunt, which made absolutely no fucking sense. None. No, he didn't intend it to be a sac bunt, but why are you bunting there? You hit a home run early in the game. You've been doing well lately. Why would you do that? So it makes it runner on second. Chad Green, the former Yankee, comes in. Stanton walks. And this makes it first and second. Then, look, some bad luck. Ben Rice flies out, hit it well, and it was caught by Miles Straw. And then Anthony Volpe as well lines out to Miles Straw. So the Yankees remain down 1. Tim Hill pitches a 1-2-3 eighth. And the closer, Jeff Hoffman, comes in, gets a couple of outs. So Escarra pops out. LeMahieu strikes out. And then Jason Dominguez, 2-out single. But then Cody Bellinger flies out to end it. A very brutal, tough 5-4 Blue Jay win. Oh, but it gets worse. It gets worse. Go to game 2. Max Fried on the bump. He pitched all right. And the line is misleading because there should have been an error called on Chisholm Jr. that wasn't. The final line, it's a no decision, 6 innings, 3 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. For the Blue Jays, it was Kevin Gausman, who he didn't really pitch all that well himself. 5 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts for him. As far as who was out of this lineup for the Yanks, I mean, Austin Wells again, Ben Rice was out, and the other player out of this lineup, Rice, Wells, and Trent Grisham, who was dealing with the hamstring tightness. So first inning, the Yankees jump out to lead. A really big hit at the time by Jason Dominguez. He really looked good in this series. So a 2-run single for him, with the bases loaded and 2 out, gives the Yankees a 2-0 lead. But things turn to shit in the bottom of the 4th. Leadoff homer for George Springer. Not going to be the first time you hear Springer homering. 12th homer for Springer makes it 2-1. And then with 2 out, a ground ball by Davis Schneider to Jazz Chisholm Jr. He boots it. Oh, no, he doesn't boot it. It's a bad throw, which pulls Goldschmidt off the bag. And they call it a single. Again, that should have been an error. Then Fried walks Miles Straw, which you can't do. That's on Fried. And then lefty, Andres Jimenez, 5th home run of the year, 3-run homer, makes it 4-2 Blue Jays. So just like that, from 2-0 Yankees to 4-2 Blue Jays. And unfortunately, 4 runs on Max Fried's ledger. Then we go, then there's a bunch of scoreless innings. And then at the top of the 7th, the Blue Jays play. They were sloppy. They bring on the lefty Justin Brule. Bellinger single. Judge intentional walk again, like pretty crazy, but I guess it also kind of makes sense. Chisholm Jr. with a ground out that makes it first, third, 1 out. And then they bring on the righty Braden Fisher. And it looked like he got Giancarlo Stanton to ground into a double play. However, it goes under the glove of Ernie Clement, makes it 4-3, first and third, 1 out. And then Jason Dominguez, it's a ground ball to Vlad Guerrero Jr. This also could have been an out at the plate, possibly, but he misfields it. So it ties it up at 4. Then Volpe flies out and Escobar strikes out. The Yankees were never able in these games. They tied it up, or they would go down by 1. They were never able late to take a lead. I mean, it's not as if they didn't show fight. Because in game 3, they're down 8-0. But again, it is so frustrating on this team. Once they go down, they rarely come back late. But they catch a break there, makes it 4-4. And here's what was also frustrating. Once the Yankees did tie it up, the bullpen immediately gave it back up every time. Mark Lauder Jr. comes on, 1-out single Jimenez, walks Tyler Heineman, and now coming in is Luke Weaver. And it looked as if he had Addison Barger struck out, but they call catcher's interference on Escobar. Catcher's interference, they probably need to rethink in terms of the rule. I mean, the rule behind it. Like, it was a check swing by Barger. There wasn't a whole lot that Escobar could do, but hey, that's still on him. And it's very frustrating because that would have changed the whole tenor of the innings. So now it's bases loaded, 1 out, and Ernie Clement gets a single deflected by Volpe. I mean, look, Volpe wasn't going to get a double play there, but maybe if Volpe feels that, they get it out. And then it's George Springer with a grand slam, his 13th home run of the year, to make it 9-4. And so the floodgates are fully open at this point. Jeff Hartlieb would come on to finish the inning. Bottom of the 8th, Hartlieb had his struggles. And with this inning too, there was, I believe, there was defensive miscues here where a ball goes right by DJ LeMahieu, which would have ended the inning. It wasn't an error. LeMahieu, he can't field, and his offense isn't good enough to justify Jazz Chisholm being out of position. The problem is Oswald Peraza is one of the worst hitters in the league. So it's a bad situation all around. Really is. I mean, second, short, and third is a major problem. I mean, there's just no other way to look at it. Bases loaded walk by Ernie Clement after the inning was extended makes it 10-4. And then George Springer, 2-run single, makes it 12-4. So George Springer had 7 RBIs in this one game. And then JT Brubaker finishes the inning. The Yankees get a meaningless run in the 9th off of Yariel Rodriguez and an RBI ground up by Jason Dominguez and lose by a final score of 12-5. They were 2 for 17 with runners in scoring position, and one of the hits was by Stanton in the 9th inning that meant nothing. Game 3. Will Warren gets obliterated like he did against the Dodgers. First inning gets annihilated. 4 innings, 10 hits, 8 runs, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts. So he was able to still pitch 3 more innings, which I guess was important, to kind of save the bullpen. But Will Warren, he's been really good. And with this potential Clarke Schmidt injury, Warren is going to be that much more important. But there's still these major issues where it goes from just something that could be kind of bad to just disaster. For the Blue Jays, it was Jose Barrios, and he had a really, really bad 5th inning, a horrible 5th inning, 4 1/3 innings, 9 hits, 6 runs, no walks, and 3 strikeouts. That's tough for him, and not get that win when you're up 8-0 is pretty brutal. For the Yanks, Trent Grisham did not start again. Austin Wells did not start again. And then as well, let's see here. Who else was out of the lineup? Okay, no. Those are the 2 main ones that didn't play to start, Wells and Grisham. So first inning, pretty simple. It is a 2-run single by Alejandro Kirk, a 3-run homer by Addison Barger, and it's 5-0 before any outs were made. Then there's a 2-run homer by Davis Schneider, his second homer of the year, that makes it 7-0 Blue Jays. Bottom of the 3rd, with 2 out and a runner on second, a ball is deflected off of Will Warren's glove, and LeMahieu he tried but LeMahieu's just slow. He gets to the ball kind of slowly. He throws it. He doesn't have a great arm. And Wagner was safe at home. Like, that's just what it is. That's what the Yankees are dealing with. 8-0. And then the 5th inning, they show some fight. RBI single LeMahieu, RBI single Rice, RBI double Judge makes it 8-3. And then Giancarlo Stanton, it's his first homer of the season to make it 8-6. So the Yankees all of a sudden are right back in it. Then Ian Hamilton throws a scoreless 5th. In the 6th, the Yankees would score again. Bases loaded, 1 out, and Cody Bellinger beats a double play to make it 8-7. And then unfortunately, Stanton flies out in a situation that was, I guess, 2nd and 3rd by the time he got up. 6th inning is a scoreless inning between Ian Hamilton and Tim Hill. Anthony Volpe grounds into a double play in the 7th inning in the 1st and 2nd 1-out spot. Big surprise. They showed a stat on Yes Network that Anthony Volpe has left the most men on base of anyone in baseball, which is quite impressive. Then with 2 out, Tim Hill, who's not good against righties, gives up a home run to Davis Schneider. So Schneider hitting, 2 out of his 3 home runs this season against the Yankees in this series, 9-7. And then Yimi Garcia in the 8th. The Yankees actually tied up. 1-out walk for Ben Rice, and then they actually pitched to Aaron Judge, which was interesting. And I guess they liked the Yimi Garcia right-on-right matchup, and Judge hits a 2-run homer to tie it up at 9. Paul Goldschmidt was in a situation with 2 on and 2 out at the end of the inning, but he grounded out to unfortunately keep it at 9-9. Again, the Yankees had chances to maybe take a lead somewhere, and they didn't. We go to the bottom of the 8th, and Devin Williams comes on. Now, to be fair to Devin Williams, he's been pitching well lately, but he does not get the job done. It's a 1-out walk for George Springer, who was a thorn in the Yankees side this series. He then steals second. Intentional walk Vlad Guerrero Jr., which I agreed with. Then Alejandro Kirk flies out, and both runners tag up and advance, which is kind of crazy. The fact that Vlad Guerrero went from first to second successfully just speaks volumes. And then it's a wild pitch by Devin Williams with Ben Rice as catcher. Which again, but also Devin Williams, he yanked it. Like, even the best of catchers, you have a tough time stopping that, but that's just the type of bullshit that's going on here. That is how you came back from 8 runs down, and then they take a lead in a wild pitch. And then Addison Barger, to make matters worse, gets an RBI single to make it 11-9. We go to the 9th, and Jeff Hoffman gives up a 2-out single, but he gets the save. Blue Jays win 11-9. Let's go to game 4. Trying to avoid the sweep. At this point in time, the Yankees and Blue Jays are in a flat tie. But the Yankees would lead this series not in first place anymore because they lose game 4. Clarke Schmidt, he only goes 3 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 1 strikeout. And, spoke about, again, right forearm tightness for Clarke Schmidt. I'm concerned. I hope it's not a season-ending injury, but we will find out soon. For the Blue Jays, it was Chris Bassett who threw a lot of pitches. He threw 113 pitches in 5 2/3 innings, gets the win to improve to 8-4, 8 hits, 3 runs, 3 walks, and 9 strikeouts for Chris Bassett. Not in this lineup to start was Paul Goldschmidt and Giancarlo Stanton, as well as DJ LeMahieu. Blue Jays take a lead in this one. RBI double by Addison Barger in the first to make it 1-0 Blue Jays. Then the Yankees tied up in the third on a Trent Grisham homer, which is a good sign coming off of the injury. 16th homer of the year for Grisham, makes it 1-1. But then in the third, right back at it. So many response innings by the Blue Jays, left and fucking right. A 2-run homer by George Springer, 14th homer of the year, makes it 3-1 Blue Jays, and that would be the last inning that Clarke Schmidt would throw. Then the Yankees do tied up in the top of the 4th. 1-out triple by Dominguez. RBI single by Volpe makes it 3-2. Double by Wells. A fucking strikeout by Oswald Peraza, who he is so fucking bad offensively. It's insane. But they get lucky. A wild pitch thrown by Chris Bassett gets Anthony Volpe to score to tie it up at 3. But yet again, the Blue Jays get those 2 runs right back off of Clayton Beeter on a really impressive at-bat by Nathan Lucas. A 2-run double makes it 5-3 Toronto. Then we go to the bottom of the 5th, where Addison Barger homers, his 11th homer of the year, makes it 6-3 off of Beeter. Jonathan Loazia comes in at that point. He did a pretty solid job. And then in the 7th, the Yankees get a rally going, and Chisholm Jr. with an RBI double makes it 6-4. Then the one mistake that Jason Dominguez makes, because he was 4 for 5 in this game, he strikes out with 2nd and 3rd, no out. That was a big strikeout. Chad Green comes on, gets Anthony Volpe to get an RBI ground out. Austin Wells walks, and then Giancarlo Stanton, pinch hitting for Peraza, grounds out to the pitcher. So the Yankees remain down by 1, 6-5. Mark Leiter Jr. pitches a scoreless 7th. We go to the 8th, and Chad Green actually intentionally walked Judge with 2 out, but then Justin Brule struck out Bellinger lefty. Although that was kind of bullshit too, where Bellinger got hit by the pitch, but they said he went around. I mean, that was questionable right there. It was. And earlier in the inning, Trent Grisham was called for strike 3 on a pitch that was ball. Luke Weaver pitched at the bottom of the 8th. His struggles continue. With 2 out, no one on. Lucas single, and George Springer, just for good measure, does it again. 15th homer of the year, makes it 8-5 Toronto. And then in the 9th inning, Jeff Hoffman, he gets the save. A 1-out double by Dominguez, but that's all it was. And the Blue Jays get the 4-game sweep. I believe they said it was the first 4-game sweep against the Yankees at Toronto, which I guess alludes to the fact that I guess there may have been a 4-game sweep at Yankee Stadium by Toronto by specifying that it was done in Toronto. Anyway, embarrassing all the same. And now the Yankees will head back home to go to Citi Field and take on the Mets. Quick turnaround as well. It's a 4th of July, 3 o'clock game. So First game is going to be former Met Marcus Stroman, which is scary from a Yankee perspective. I don't feel good about that. For the Mets, again, it's to be decided because Paul Blackburn was supposed to be the starter, but he got hurt. So it's probably going to be a bullpen type situation for the Mets. Game 2 will be Carlos Rodon against former Yankee Frankie Montas. On paper, that would be advantage Yankees, but we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting. And then game 3 is probably the most favorable. It's Max Fried against to be decided. So the pitching matchups, besides the Stroman one, to me, that's a wash. But games 2 and 3 are advantage Yankees. But how can you feel good about this team right now? It's been a epic fall from grace and very typical of this team. It's a June swoon. It's a summer meltdown. But yeah, it doesn't have you feeling good about this team. It's a long season, like obviously things will turn, but very, very frustrating. And this team's got a lot of problems. So again, it's the second time the Yankees been swept this season, both in division, at the Red Sox and now at the Blue Jays for 4 games. And they will hope to turn things around against the Mets, and they will also hope that Clarke Schmidt is not badly injured.